I want to take a moment to welcome you and say good evening. And thank you for taking some time out of your evening this evening to come to this event. And this is actually our Experience More Freedom with Soul Naturals event finale. And all week, this event has been so personal to me because I've had the opportunity to share my story of being in the middle of an incredible business build, which from the outside looked like I had it all. But I was overworked and I was burnout, and behind the scenes, my body was taking a beating. And I was sick, and the doctors didn't have a whole lot of answers for me. And my lab work actually looked generally fine, except these strange inflammatory markers that the doctors were quite concerned with, but they didn't even know where it was coming from. They couldn't actually give me any answers. So I was taking all of these Ayurvedic herbs and Chinese extracts at the time, and they just weren't really helping. And the doctors recommended, some immune therapies and steroids, but I definitely didn't want to go that route either. The problem is that the physical pain was relentless, and my hair was falling out in clumps, and I was gaining weight rapidly, nearly 100 pounds in 15 months, despite working out and eating relatively clean. A good day of functional activity was around 2 to 3 hours before I would retreat to work another 18 hours from my bed. And the only times I really saw my children was when they would come lay beside me and my laptop in bed, because they knew that I wasn't even going to make it to the table for dinner that evening. Now, in March of 2018, I made the really tough decision to resign from that company that I was partnered with after the doctor said that the stress was going to be my detriment, and that if I didn't change something and do something pretty drastic, I was going to not even be able to see my kids graduate. The thing is that after all of the herbs that I was on weren't cutting it, a health practitioner recommended these simple formulas, and I didn't believe they would work. I even called the corporate office of the company super skeptical, but I was desperate to not have to go down the Western medicine and steroid route. And I tried them. And all I will say is that I'm still on them now, and I can't imagine not drinking them or taking my capsules on any day. And over the last 4 years, I have lost 116 pounds of toxicity from my body. I no longer have constant pain, and I wake up each and every single day with energy and focus. My labs have all returned to normal, and the best part is that I have regained the ability to be the always there mom I desired to be. Now, the person that invited you to this event more than likely invited you because you were searching for ways to create more freedom in your life. Whether that is, freedom of time, or freedom of relationships, or freedom of health, or maybe it's financial freedom. You probably want the ability to do what you want to do, and when you want to do it, and with whom you want to do it with. And you want something that is meaningful and has a purpose, makes an impact, and builds financial security. But if you're like most of us, you're busy. And you're busy with your career, maybe your ministry, your charities, your family. And this economy, it can be hard to create the extra financial resources that could possibly change your situation. So often this leaves us stuck and overwhelmed and possibly even a little discouraged, feeling like nothing will ever change. And listen, I believe you work hard enough already. And so tonight, I wanted to share with you stories from real people just like you who are busy, and they made a decision to change. And they're going to share their experiences with you of what happened after those decisions were made. And my goal is that over the next 28 minutes, we can provide you a small glimpse into what it could be possible for you if you chose to make a change today also. So my first guest, her name is Veronica, and she's an incredible story, and I'm not really going to introduce it because I really want to have her share her experience with you. And so Veronica, I turn the floor over to you.
Thank you so much, Erica. This is such a gift to not only learn a lot about the founders this past week and kind of understand their story more, because if it wasn't for their persistence in their vision, for themselves, for the business, for their family, then, we wouldn't be able to, they wouldn't have been able to extend it to our families. And my story started really when I started having kids. In 2005, my first child, he was 2 years old. And that first 2 years was just filled with chronic illness and then vaccine injury. And our family grew to 6 people, 4 children, and it just continued. We were diagnosed with Lyme co-infections. We went through pneumonia, bronchitis, diverticulitis, you name it. It was just, we were that family who was constantly sick every month for years on end. And it was very traumatic. We lived in a big city, very polluted, a lot of toxins. So just compounded all of our illness. Not to mention, childhood traumas, etc. And we didn't really realize what was going on because, like you, diagnostic tests pointed to we were fine. And most of the time we were told, you're just a big family, it's normal. And I knew for myself that it wasn't normal. We weren't thriving. We were just trying to survive through one illness after another. And in 2005, I decided, you know what, I have to go the holistic route. I have to learn. I have to be the main caregiver because medication will probably demolish any bit of health that we have. So, we learned a lot from master herbalists and functional doctors and naturopaths, wonderful things we learned, but something was missing. I just couldn't pinpoint that middle ground, why we just couldn't get past the chronic illness side, but we knew how to combat, infections with herbs, etc. And fast forward 15 years, 2018, I met a dear friend who later would become my soul mentor, and she heard my story. She gifted me a package of soul, and within the hour, I knew that this was my second chance at life and my family's second chance at life as well. And I'm gonna cry. Because it touched the trauma, it touched, the health and wellness of the central nervous system, and I could feel the effects right away. So I knew like this was the answer. I had to figure out a way. All these years I hadn't worked, and it was tough for me to figure out the next step until 2019 when I met Greg Halliday, and he offered me the business partnership. And I just started shaking. I thought, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to run with it. I'm going to help him, help my family get better. My health got tremendously better. I've been able to grow a business that I had wanted to grow for a very long time, and also help other humans walk through their healing journeys or their health journeys. And it's been a beautiful ride, and I love every moment of it. So thank you so much, Greg. Thank you to all the founders. Thank you, Erica, for letting me share a little bit of my story.
And thank you so much, Veronica, for sharing. I love your story because it really reflects a glimpse of what really and truly is possible. I mean, you start with just some products, for health. And then, it's like the sky's the limit from there. And so I love and thank you so much for sharing. So my next guest is Dahlia, and she has another beautiful story of hope and healing, and I'm going to let her share. So Dahlia?
Well, before I started a soul program, I had gone through a pretty tough time in my life. The blood work was showing that I had cancer, and the doctors were urging that I get a biopsy. But I knew that radiation and chemo was not a route that I wanted to take, and I was determined that I would find a solution to my situation. So I knew that the impact of lifestyle, and I made a lot of changes. I juiced, I went fruitarian, I went plant-based, and I was just looking to see what would help. On the day of the surgery, they removed a 16-centimeter mass, and I finally found that there was no cancer. So that brought a lot of relief, but what it didn't take away was all the imbalances that I had been dealing with, from sleep to hormonal changes to digest, a lot of things. So I kind of felt defeated because I made so many changes and I was still dealing with these issues. But when I turned to Soul Naturals, I was actually looking for help with weight loss because I needed something to help me execute my workout programs. So immediately, that's exactly what I felt, that boost of energy, that mental clarity that I needed to be able to execute those workout programs. The cravings stopped. I could sleep soundly. I was feeling really good just with the changes. Yes, I lost weight, but surprisingly, I had a very easy, pain-free cycle. And that made me realize that I had some good stuff on me. So I was determined to find out more about it. And more importantly, because of all the changes that I was experiencing, it was really life-changing. So now I can't stop talking about Soul Naturals.
I love your story as well, Dahlia, because when I first heard parts of it, I could see so many people in your story, because oftentimes we don't know what the gift we're really receiving is with Soul. And I love the fact that it's just inspired you to share with everybody. And it's such a natural process whenever we find something that's really great. And so my next guest is Tanya. And so she has an incredible story as well. And so I'm going to let her take the floor.
Hi, thank you, Erica. Again, I want to just talk about, first of all, how great this whole thing has been, just to really get to meet the founders and just see the heart of Soul. I'm going to share my story. I do have to read it a little bit, but so that it will just help me stay focused and probably stay non-emotional. Or so anyway. So anyway, for as long as I can remember, I have always had anxiety, but I really didn't know what it was. I also had a lot of depression, but again, I didn't know what it was, and I didn't even know it was called depression. I always just thought that's who I was. This might sound silly, but I don't know if you remember the nursery rhyme where it talks about the Wednesday's child is full of woe. Well, for a really long time, not knowing if I was born on a Wednesday, I honestly really truly thought that's who I was. And I never talked about it because I really didn't know how. Later into my adult life, when I started to learn more about anxiety and depression and how the mind and the body are basically one, I realized that that was what was going on with me. Also, it helped me to connect the dots. I had a lot of trauma in my childhood, and so it all started to make sense. All the things that I went through basically conditioned my brain to react the way that it did. I've always leaned towards natural products in dealing with any types of health issues, especially after having so many side effects, actually almost dying one time with prescribed medication and even over-the-counter medications. Before Soul Naturals, I found products to take that helped me along the way, but they just would sometimes just stop working, or I just didn't feel as good as I wanted to. So I just kept searching and trying new things. Thankfully, Erica introduced me to Soul Naturals. And after starting on the products, it was really just one day. I was amazed, but it was just one day, and I felt a great difference. I was amazed, and I really didn't believe it. I thought, this just can't be true. But it was real. I almost, sorry, my body felt great. My mind was calmed. Then I started noticing that I didn't have the gut issues or the body aches. And I actually started sleeping better, which I didn't know I needed better sleep, but I learned that I did. Um, the best part for me with Soul Naturals is not just how it's helped me overcome so many things, more than what I was able to mention, but because I've been able to share it with friends and my family, which is very dear to my heart, and they've been able to overcome so much with Soul Naturals. I will always and forever be grateful for Soul Naturals. Thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing, Tanya. And I love your story. I've, of course, been with you since the beginning of your journey with Soul. And I remember when you first told me, you were like, is this really possible? Like, is it possible to feel this good? Is it possible for them to work like this?
Right.
And I have loved watching you over the last 4 years continue your journey and continue to improve your health and your family's health as well. And so my next guest is Debbie, and she's going to share her story as well. And she has a little bit of a different perspective for what soul means to her.
Thanks, Erica. Thanks again for having me this week. I've enjoyed every day of the presentations. My story is not unlike what you heard from many of the people as far as health-wise, but I walked away from a 24-year career and a place that I really enjoyed until like the last 3 years of my working there. It had taken such a bad toll on me physically that I remember telling my husband, you know, I would rather die. I'd rather go clean toilets at the brand new Holiday Inn that had just opened up half a block away from where we lived. I was newly married and I was very depressed. And part of the depression was because I had a relationship with Greg, my friend, my brother, and I hadn't been able to talk to him for all of the years that he was away. Long story short, a board of directors took over the company that we loved and things changed dramatically and it took its toll on me. And after putting up with a lot of humiliation and abuse from the new board, I just decided I would walk away, being completely depressed, and took what was left of my 401k, which wasn't much at that time, had to pay 30% of that to the government for retiring early. I had $45,000 in debt. Like I said, we were newly married. My responsibility was the mortgage in our marriage, and I didn't know how to pay the mortgage. And I had a couple of part-time jobs. I didn't have a lot of offers. I found my friend Greg. He had the liberty of being able to talk to me at that time because I was no longer an employee where we were employed prior. And I really went to his door looking for a job because that's all I knew how to do was work in the corporate world. And I'll never forget, Greg looked at me the way Greg tends to do when a brother loves you. You know, he looked at me and he just said, Deb, I can't afford you. I can't afford to pay you what you were worth and what you weren't getting. But if you are willing to do the work, I will help you build your business. And so I got to it because I had no other choice. I had a lot of part-time jobs. I had things I had to pay. My health was suffering. As a matter of fact, I got a call from a former customer that said, I heard you have a terminal disease. I heard that your last convention, you looked horrible. And I did. I looked 20 years older than I do now. And I'm 60, almost 63 now. I was 53 when I left. And I said, no, I'm not dying, but I felt like my spirit was dead. And I went to it. And one of the few things that I did, I didn't dare call people because I had a cease and desist letter sent to me. And I remember Greg crying and saying, look, hey, it's happened to all of us. And if we didn't go through this, Soul wouldn't be here and we wouldn't be changing lives. We did a lot of hand holding in the beginning. And so I started posting about my experiences on Facebook. And one day, one of my friends, Lydia, called and said, hey, I know you're not a liar, but I do know your physical challenges that you've experienced. If what you're saying is true, I would love to try that product. And so I sent her a plethora of gifts because she's my buddy, and I let her try them. And she called me back a week later and said, I love them. How do I join this company? And by the way, in case anyone's listening to these phone calls, you did not approach me. I approached you. It's really funny. And that was the beginning of my business. And 9 years later, today, I have the freedom. See, I set my timer so I wouldn't go over. But I have the freedom to work with the people that I love. I have the freedom to feel better. And most recently, I have a dream that came true. So I got a brand new car because when I left my job, that was the other thing. I had to sell my car to pay stuff off, and I was hoofing it everywhere. So I have a beautiful Lincoln Corsair, and that was a dream. It was the dream car. That's thanks to Solle. I have achieved a rank that I never thought was possible. And my dream home hopefully will be finished in the month of June. And so my situation, not different health-wise from you guys. I had all the great experiences, but the great experiences brought me my financial freedom that I enjoy today. I don't have part-time jobs. I can stay home. I can do these kind of fun events with all of you guys and still enjoy a great life. And I'm no longer in debt.
I love your story, Debbie, and it's just such a testament to what is truly possible when you make a decision and then you commit to just doing it, whatever it takes. And the greatest part about this is that we get to do it, whatever it takes, with the people that we love. And that is such a wonderful gift in this journey. And so my next guest, who was just mentioned in that one, is actually Lydia. And so she's going to share her perspective of what Solle has given to her.
Thanks, Erica, for having me. Loved all of your testimonies. So I think the hardest thing for anyone is to face unexpected change. We plan our lives a certain way, and when things don't go the way they should, it's hard to navigate those changes. It's very challenging. I faced an unexpected change in the year 2006. I had been married 18 years, and the man I was married to decided to go a different route. So I found myself losing a lot of the freedoms I had at that moment. I found myself, first of all, facing a divorce, which not easy, no self-esteem, but worse than all that was all of a sudden the sole provider for two boys, a 15 and a 10-year-old. And I remember thinking, what am I going to do now? Because my income at that moment was based on the ability to leave my children at home with their father, which I couldn't do anymore. So I would travel and I would work at that time for a company, same company Debbie was talking about, and I taught health for them around the United States and abroad. That was what I enjoyed doing. But that was no longer an option for me, so I had to let go of that. And when I let go of that, I was only left with my other form of income, which was I was working from home, and I had one-on-one consultations with clients. And that was no longer an option either, because the trauma of the divorce was so big for me that I couldn't stay where I was living. I had to relocate just to get away from the memories. So I moved to another state, and now I'm in another state. I'm not working. I can't develop a clientele for my consultations because that takes time. And so I had to go back to work 9 to 6. And so I do this. And a year later, I meet this amazing man who I am still married to. And he brings a child to the marriage. I have two. We become this blended family. We're both working full time. We don't have time for each other because we have children, and they require so much, and it's a blended family, and that has a lot of challenges. And I remember stopping at one time and saying, oh my goodness, I know that a lot of people do this, but what am I missing? Because there's got to be an easier way to work. At that point, a few years later, I meet Solle. And Debbie already told you the story of how. And at one point, Greg comes to me and says, Lydia, you do know that Solle can be your biggest source of income. But, you know, if you want to do both things, he saw how stretched out I was, you can also do that. So he never pressured me, but he allowed me to see things and see myself the way I had not been able to see myself. And Greg holding my hand, whether he knew it or not, and my mentor holding my hand, whether she knew it or not, I took some hard decisions back then. Little did I know that network marketing would actually change my life and give me the freedoms I had lost and more. So today I have the freedom to relocate, and I can do it and take my job. I have the freedom to choose my schedule. I have the freedom to work with the people I want. So I choose my parents, and I can talk to them about the business. I can travel with them. I can go to events with them. I have the freedom to say yes to my son anytime he says, hey, can I bring Lucas over? My grandson. I have the freedom to work as a volunteer in a community service that is very dear to my heart. I have the freedom to spend quality time with my husband, and I can say yes to any time that he says, want to do breakfast, want to go away for 2 days, want to do this, want to do that, I need to do this. Yes, 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 yes. I have the freedom to do all those things. Now I know that network marketing is the only way to work. And if you think differently, it's because you have never been exposed to Solle. You don't have the products that Solle offers. You don't have the system that our team will give you. Hands-on, Erica is going to show you how we are ready to help you with that. You don't have the mentors that you will have here in Solle. You don't have the founders that you have here in Solle, which you've had a chance to meet this week. Solle has all of that for you. So for me, it was unexpected changes in my life that made me look towards network marketing, because I knew there had to be a better way, and Solle became that better way for me. And I know it can become that for you and give you all the freedoms you want. So talk to the person who brought you. Don't wait too long, because Solle is needed by the world. The world needs Solle, which means the world needs you.
Thank you so much, Lydia. And I love your story because it is a true testament of the possibilities, not just in network marketing, but specifically the possibilities here in Solle. And I 100% agree with you. For anybody that has, maybe tried and doesn't think this will work for them, you haven't done Solle, and you just don't know what we have here. And I can tell you, it's just different. And so I have one more guest today to share her story, and that is Esther. I appreciate you coming on, Esther, and I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. My name is Esther Lucero. I work with healthcare. My story in Solle is a friend. That is when a friend introduced me to Solle products. I have been looking for a product, supplements who give me the energy I need, but honestly, it didn't help me 100%. And no, my energy was going down by this time, like around 5 or 6. My energy was like boo. So. She introduced me to Solle, to products, and immediately the benefits were my energy levels and stamina went off to the roof in a healthy way, in a stable way. I was very pleased because that's what I needed at the moment, right? I was excited at the time. I've been implementing more Solle products with that synergy, that the Solle products only found in this product. So together it started to benefit my nervous system, my stress levels. When they were decreasing, they were like more going up every day, because when after this pandemic, after a year of that, I was totally took all my energy. Physical, mentally, and emotionally, it was so exhausted. So this product helped me to get what I needed at the time I needed. So I felt more more grounded and calm, to work through the day without highs and lows on the energy levels. So I was able to finish work, and still have energy to work, out, go on my bicycle rides, take care of my dog, cook, clean, everything that, what we do after work. So I have the energy to finish my day and not feeling that tired. So I started getting better quality of sleep. I love that, which in return helped me to wake up happy, ready for the day, not just, like, I don't want to get up or something like that. I usually have a hard time with that. So yeah, I was very grateful with the results that I started to recommend it to my friends, and they started to feel those improvements too. And I have an example. There was a young girl that she was pregnant at the time she got COVID. And well, as we know, COVID has left her weak, tired, lots of hair, anemic, and emotionally unwell. That's what happened after COVID. So Solle products help her stop her hair loss in about less than a month. Her energy levels improved. So doctor says she was no longer anemic. And she gets pretty strong and happy with the 6-month-old baby boy that is happily breastfeeding, because she was afraid to do that too. So she's happy, and it's, just see her, how happy she is after see her, the time she was pregnant and worried. It's I'm so happy and thankful for my friend for sharing Solle products with me, because that changed my life for good. And that's my story. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Esther. I appreciate you sharing, and I love it. And as you are probably starting to see, that this opportunity is life-changing. No matter what you're seeking, whether it's freedom of health or wealth or purpose or impact or whatever it is, we probably have a solution. And speaking of solutions, I am my final guest today, and definitely the near and dear reason why I chose to call Sound Naturals home is definitely the founders and executive team, because they're unmatched anywhere. And I would challenge you, you will not find them. You will not find this caliber of people anywhere on any executive team. And tonight I want to introduce you to the principal founder and the president and CEO of Solle Naturals, Greg Halliday. Now, prior to founding Solle Naturals, Greg had spent 25 years in the natural health industry, and 20 of those years with a very large, successful, publicly traded herbal company. And he served as an officer in the company for 10 years and as president of the US division in his final 6 years. He has a passion to increase awareness in his belief that true wellness can only be attained through proper nourishment of both the body and the mind. And I have asked him if he would be willing to share what the origin of Solle, like the origin story of how Solle came to be. So Greg?
Thanks, Erica. I'll do my very best to be brief. It's hard to, this, it's hard to always, it's not always easy to share our life-changing stories, because they happen over, usually a long period of time. And I do appreciate your introduction. You got me thinking back, because before Solle, and part of the founding story had to do with all those 20 years, 20 of those 25 were dealing with natural alternatives to health, and also the viability of making that a business and focusing your business and your life on educating and helping other people and being there for them. I mean, we call it direct selling or network marketing. I kind of like to call it mentor marketing, because that's what kind of sets it apart. At least as I look at leaders that I've so much admired over the years and here at Solle, because they're more than just sort of relationship marketing. They're just mentors to so many people, and they teach others to be that. And I personally believe that those personal successes in health don't happen if we don't have good mentors, or at least not very frequently. After those 20 years, we dealt with a company that had 600 products, 300 when I arrived, and we launched 300 of them, 300 in 20 years. And we really dealt with this, okay, there's this going on. You can use a drug for this. Here's a natural alternative. So part of the soul story is that, the most expensive way to deal with your health, even naturally, is to look at individual symptoms and problems and just try to plug them and fix them. It is, to me, better because you work with the body to work naturally, but it's really difficult and can be frustrating for people. And that's one thing I saw over the years. A lot of people, I would venture to say 80% or more, did not stick with it because they didn't take enough of the herbs or take it long enough, or because they were just focusing on this one thing and they weren't looking at the whole balance as a whole in health. They didn't see the success they wanted and sort of gave up on it. I can't say that was concrete and articulate in my mind. It's one of those things that in the back of my mind, I see now was forming. And what happened that really led to Soul was in the middle of this really good company, lots of natural products. I had traveled the US very extensively. I can't tell you how many homes and stores and offices I've been in because I was not a sit in the office type of president. I wanted to see and hear and listen. And Debbie knows we traveled a lot, didn't we, Debbie? And so through all this, I learned, well, my wife, her name's Donna. And if you, I don't know if you're familiar with Soul at all, she has recorded her story. She recorded it 10 years after. So that was as early as she felt comfortable. She was very comfortable always in sharing, but to sit down and relive it on recording wasn't something she was ready to do for a while because it was like, I guess for all of us, those really hard surprises, like Lydia said, it's sometimes we feel like we barely make it through them. And if it weren't for great people, great blessings in our life, we somehow wonder if we would have made it through. And that's the way it was for us. Toward the end of my time at the other company, even though Donna used lots of herbs, and I could tell you a dozen major success stories in health for her and her family because of these herbs. They were all on prescription drugs from age 10 or 11 for severe female issues at very young ages and related issues. All of that solved. So this is someone who'd been using natural healing for forever. And all of a sudden we have 6 children. One of them's a boy, 5 are girls. We had 4 girls, really wanted that boy. So the 5th one, Donna's pregnant with Ethan, who just graduated from high school this week, past week. And she got this severe depression and can't figure out, neither can either of us, why in the past these herbs were enough and they're not now. In fact, she took in large quantities and they weren't enough. So long story short, we found ourselves in a situation we couldn't overcome. We were supposed to go on a trip to China for, ended up being there for 3 weeks. She was going to come for half of it with me. And things we could tell were significantly off. She went into the doctor and she shares this about as badly as you can score on a mental health exam. What I mean by that is they want you to check into the hospital now. Bad is how it ended up with her, but she was educated enough in health to know that was going to be drugs to numb the pain. And they probably are necessary at times for people. At certain bridges to make it through, avoiding harm to themselves. But Donna knew, she knew kind of the consequences. And she said, I'm not going to go and do that, but I will go to my doctor. She immediately got on Zoloft. That was something she knew was a bridge. She knew she wanted to learn more and figure out how to get off. And that changed her life very temporarily. For a number of months, she was really good while she continued taking herbs. People always ask about that. She continued to take all the herbs because she actually felt something better with the herbs than just alone. And then the body, because it's a drug, started to react and the effects were less and less. So naturally, doctor says, let's raise the dose. And that happens 3 or 4 times until she gets to the max dose of Zoloft. At the time she got to that point and it was starting to lessen effect again, and she really started to get scared again. Coincidentally, at this time I was president of the half of the company. I always had a dinner with the up and coming leaders. And I sat by a woman named Patricia who just glowed. And I always asked him, what got you into these crazy herbs? I would say it that way. And she told me a severe depression. So she doesn't know what our family's going through. She told me her whole story. It was terribly difficult what she went through. It would be difficult for me to even recount her story to you because there's some hard things in it. And long story short, she shared an herbal program that involved Chinese formulas that were more concentrated than the usual. I went home and shared that with Donna. That was the beginning of our journey with home, and that was Solle, and that was the beginning of our journey with adaptogens. Now, Solle wasn't even a figment of my imagination. I'm not one of those people that had a bucket list to do this. I'll be really transparent with you. I probably would have just had things been different and there weren't a change in board and they kept this focus on people and health and development, I probably would have stayed. That wasn't meant to be, obviously. And Donna, I went home that night. And like I say, it was a huge blessing. I know now there's nothing coincidental about it. Told her the whole story. She said, I want to add those formulas to what I'm doing with the Zoloft. She added them, but that meant taking 60 some odd capsules every day. And then she herself, she talked with her doctor. Her doctor said, oh, you can get off anytime. That was not true. She had tried it 2 or 3 times. But anyway, doctor knew, doctor was aware. And she backed herself slowly down. And long story short, in about 3 or 4 months, she did most of the backing down. She sort of had what she'd call maybe a crutch dose every couple of days, a fraction of a dose. And that lasted for another 3 or 4 months. And then we had a trip to Alaska. And she forgot the Zoloft, but she remembered her herbs. So she's taking 30 to 60 capsules a day, and she didn't even miss it on this cruise. And she said, I know I'm good now. I didn't think I could do without the Zoloft at all. So she was probably taking the Zoloft for a little more than 2 years. It's now been 15 years since she's been on the Zoloft. When all the changes happened at the other company, that was the first point that I considered doing something else. I took a long time. I took a couple of years after thinking, studying, turning down other opportunities. And when I got to a point where I stayed focused on why these herbs worked with Donna and not all the others, what's the difference? I've discovered the light bulb went on for me. I needed to learn. The difference was the adaptogens in them. And I immersed myself in that. A lot of things coincidentally fell into place with other partners and the other founders of Solle. That's another whole story, how that fell into place for the timing for them. And Solle was off and running with all of our formulas containing adaptogens so that everything we do nutritionally deals with nutritional support for physical wellness along with the corollary mental. And that really simply is the process. And there's a lot more to that story, but that's how it happened. Erica.
I love the story of Solle. I have often felt that Solle is like a love story, and not just with you and Donna, but like all the pieces of the founders coming together and the deep connection that you have. And I am so grateful to be able to be a witness to this incredible synergy as well. Before I let you go tonight, though, I want to ask you one more question, and that is, what do you see, now it's been 10 years later, right? What do you see for the future, for the vision? Like, what gets you excited about what's coming up next?
That is a hard question, Erica. Harder than you think, perhaps. Or maybe you know it's hard and that's why you asked. But I think the reason that I'm so excited right now is that we formed Solle, as you might say, organically. It was not a plan to go in and make a boom and then move on. Solle's a legacy company. We started with the first formula for Donna, which was adaptable and in the drink form, so vital. And then went to our official launch with 7 products. Never meant them to be everything, but we knew they would make significant change in everyone, those 7. And we've gone piece by piece over 10 years, adding products to fill specific needs. Why that passion, why that drive? Because of the trends we see accelerating in the world in terms of health and mental wellness. And what I mean by accelerating is more pronounced issues that won't be addressed in other ways. I do believe that. So right now, 10 years later, I know this is how I look at Solle. Solle's virtually unknown for all the wonderful, wonderful sharing and amazing work that's been done by mentors. In a grand scheme, Solle's virtually unknown, but has great strength. So we've grown every single year and expanded, but in a way that you would say is more grassroots and organic. Our goals now and our structure that's just being laid into place now is to make ourselves known. And part of what we did over the pandemic was invest millions in machinery. And Erica knows this, you had Blake on. A very significant investment there to absolutely have much more control over supply. So I kind of look at all those things in the back of my mind and say, look at where we're poised. I combine that with what I know deep inside, just as you both, all of you have said today, that Solle will make those changes in everyone. The changes are different in everyone, but positive and productive and lasting changes in every single person. And we've also got the benefit of over 10 years watching people who now 8 years into it would tell you, I didn't think I'd be another level or 2 levels better at 8 years than I was at 6 or at 4. There is a cumulative effect, which is the other thing we look for, because adaptogens are daily nutrients. The Chinese would have called them superior herbs because they're safe in any quantity for daily use. That's more our focus, using balance and building over time. And so when I think of all those things, the evidences and the really the learning that's happened over the first decade, combined with where Solle's invested recently and poised to do, that's probably why I'm so excited, because I know, I also got to add one final thing, the strength of our mentors, people like you, Erica, that have a lot of experience, the heart, and also personal health experience. That's an infinite potential to make a difference. And that's, honestly, that's what makes me happy. Seeing the changes, that is what makes me happy. All the changes, the financial ones, I'm super happy Debbie's building a dream home. I'm super happy for all of Lydia's story. I'm looking forward to being super happy in your journey, Erica, and each one of you here, because that's what makes us happy. It's what fulfills us and drives us. It's more of a long-term legacy view.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I want to reiterate that point that Solle is virtually unknown, and the sky is the limit. Like, it is a limitless opportunity. And so I want to come back to the people who are brand new watching this today, or maybe you're watching this for the second or the third time. And I want to address you for just one moment. I'm sure you're starting to see that the products, the compensation, and the people of Solle are second to none. It's just different here. I want to take this moment to invite you to partner with us. And we will give you the keys to a system that will allow you to acquire as many customers as you want, essentially meaning you can grow as big as you want to over time. Now, I, along with other top leaders who you've heard from today, have partnered together over this summer to teach you step by step exactly what to do and exactly what to say to get your first and your next customers and your next specialist on repeat. We've worked together with a very proven system that has been used over the last few years, and we're molding it with our brand new Share the Wealth program to teach you how to share this system through the power of social media. Now, we've taken out all the guesswork. We actually will kick off next Tuesday with our very first weekly masterclass, where we're going to guide you through the exact steps to follow to grow your personal brand so that people are discovering you and wanting to do business with you. We're going to give you the exact scripts to guide you so that you can take that person from an interested person to a new customer in just a few text messages and videos. And if you desire, even a phone call. And then once you have that customer, we're also going to give you the exact follow-up and client care scripts that you need so that you can ensure that every single customer, regardless of their reason for choosing Solle, has a terrific experience. And so that you can be the best mentor to that new customer than possible. And you can even opt in to receive a daily practice plan that can be completed in as little as 60 minutes. And it will give you the exact steps to take each day, and it will actually teach you exactly how to take them. And then, of course, if that wasn't enough, we are partnering together to bring you It's Sold Much More, which is going to be a weekly event that will feature testimonials, product spotlights, and a Q&A with our very own founder and president each Tuesday evening, so that you will have something fun and something exciting to invite your friends and your members to. I want to invite you to partner with us because honestly, there has never been a better time to begin and to get active than today. So I'm going to give you 3 simple steps. The first step is to get back with the friend who invited you to take a look at the opportunity and ask them how to get started today. Step 2, enroll as a specialist with our Specialist Success Kit and select your products. And then step 3, launch your business with us. Partner with us over this summer and go through our trainings and get started and take action. We will partner together and we will show you exactly what to do next. I encourage you, don't wait, because there's no reason for you to stay stuck and in the same situation 3 months from now or a year from now. Take control of your life. Solle is positioned to hit momentum, and this year will be bigger than last year, and next year is going to be bigger than this year, and the time to get in is right now. So I encourage you, build a business that you're proud of, one that pays you 5 times per month to share solutions that the world is desperately looking for. We'll also create future value and security for your family. You could possibly build your own dream home. You could possibly work every single day with your parents and be able to say yes and more to all of the loved ones in your own life. Until next week, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. I want to thank all of my special guests for sharing your stories of hope and healing with us tonight. And I encourage you to get back with the person who invited you here and get started today. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.